Hey, hey, beautiful people. It is June the 2nd, 2014 at 1:31 in the afternoon. Win. Yeah, let's cut something down. I have to say, I've felt like doing that a bunch lately. It's truly amazing having so much light in my field. At the same time, I feel so much pain for things that I can't really change, and it's not really up for me to change. And that is what I'm starting to understand. We can't just go cutting down everything because we don't like the situation. um, man, it's wonderful in a lot of ways to be back at home, and in certain ways, it's just as painful as it can be. And there's not really too much I can do about situations that others don't want to change for the better and that works for everybody. Abundance is when it works for everybody, not just necessarily when it's selfishly done for self. And we got a lot of things to change on this planet, and some things just are not ready to change at this point. Uh, it's I did a bunch of geomancy this morning. I had decided that I didn't want to gather persons together to do large groups and water healing ceremonies, but we're each walking around in our own universe, and I'm in mine, and you're in yours, and your experience and your perceptions is going to be different from my experience and my perceptions, although as we come together and we overlap our particular universe, we have that Vesica Pisces experience, that vibration that we share in common. But your view of that from one side, and my view of that from the other, is going to be a different view, no matter how we look at it. And so we're each in our own different little universe, and we're each changing our universe as we change our thoughts and perceptions. But that does not necessarily mean we don't get hurt by relationships with others. When we're playing with persons on higher levels of vibration, those of us that are way showers, man, my last video really hit home for a lot of people. It was interesting to see how many persons were having similar experiences or have had similar experiences as mine, and that there's a good percentage. There's about 20% of persons that had no issues growing up or with family right now. There's no issues between the family, and it's very interesting to see those that have had traumatic experiences because of the families they were born into and the karma that we're here to bring into balance or bring into zero, to negate. And it's coming from our family histories and our cultural histories and the histories of the land, and all the experiences that we've had. I mean, in my own family, boy, we've got the whole gambit. I've got Native American Cherokee that walked the Trail of Tears. I've got the Ballard that left England and right during the Inquisition, and faked his own death to come over here, and that was William Clay Ballard, me, just in a different lifetime. And we've got the Jackson side of our family, which was Andrew Jackson, and he was trying to keep the Illuminati bankers out of the United States and forced the Cherokee to walk the Trail of Tears back in the 1830s, and really saved them from extermination by the Europeans that were coming over. Even though he was presented as being the guy that had killed them, no, truly he saved them. And so, and then part of my family had slaves and another part of my family did not. There are two beautiful, gorgeous red-headed woodpeckers right here. That's neat to see them together. I don't know if you could see them if I pointed the camera over there. But anyway, and in my last lifetime, I started remembering when I was 7 years old. I was in Colorado, and I was a Ballard then also, and I was, man, and the two red-headed woodpeckers, they're mating. Oh, check this out! Check this out! Oh, can you see those? Comes into here. Oh, that was too cool. All the various colors, all the colors of the spectrum on a single bird, and single two birds. And that's really how I feel right now. I've got all this stuff arising in me from family history. I had, you know, part of my family came to visit a couple of weeks ago, and oh man, they're such wonderful people. They really are, but so unawake and aware, and proud of making bomb releases for the military, the Illuminati and the banksters. And that side of the family had slaves, up right where the 3 civil rights workers were killed. See, I was born in the middle of all this stuff. I had a friend say, "Oh man, if you feel hurt, that's just because of ego." They presented one of Eckhart Tolle's sayings, and that's not necessarily, if you feel hurt, it's not necessarily because you're in your ego, it's because you're in your heart and you're feeling. And you know, and when we are working and operating with just those on our level who are conscious of what we do and what we say to each other and how we treat each other and the energy exchange with each other, when we are working with those guys, we are so careful about not hurting or harming anybody, because we are dealing, we understand karma, the magnetics that we are both putting out and receiving from each other in our overlaying experience. When we're around persons who are not and are unawake and unaware, they can hurt us without knowing. And they're not hurting us because we're in our head. They're hurting us because we are in our heart, because we truly love, because we are so giving unconditionally. We'll give anything and everything we have. And we do this over and over and over and over. And when we do it many times, that energy exchange is not returned. And we're not supported in those dreams and visions and ideas and participation and consideration of how we see things and those things that we need for our energetic expansion to keep the love built up. I mean, with ease, without dis-ease. The dis-ease comes from the lack of consideration. The dis-ease comes from others still remaining in that state of survival mode, of there's not enough, of scarcity, of lack, of I can't do it myself, so I need to manipulate others or control others so that they can do it for me, and I can have more if I keep them down and keep them less. This has just been the name of the game for so long, and yes, we can choose to continue to play in the game, which, you know, for some of us, that has to do with our family and friends, or we can choose to move on and make new friends. That doesn't mean we love those other family and friends any less. And it's funny when we come back to the situations that were previously going on and that we had chose to remove ourselves from, and we find that they have expanded consciousness. As we increase our frequency, yes, they do too. But man, there's a big bullet just jumped over there. That's, oh man, they're tearing it up. Maybe I ought to go get my net. But every time I go fishing now, they're full of oil. Mullet jump out of the water, and whenever you see them, they got their mouth open. And so anything that, you know, anytime they're coming up through the surface of that water, they're catching oil, and you'll find belly full of it a lot of times these days. And Oh well, that's like I was saying in the last video, we're at in the belly of the beast here in the Gulf of Mexico. Anyway, back to what I was letting flow out. A lot of times we can leave and we expand our light because we're not being contained or having that light drawn from us, and we can leave and go be around others and really, really expand our light, live our dreams, be supported in those things that we wish to do, and then come back to those situations, those family affairs that or with persons that we love so much. We want them, see them advance like we do, but instead sometimes they just suck the light and life out of us and say we're doing that to them. We're the ones that are bullying them, trying to get them to go forward, when many times it's not always that way. We just want everybody to advance light speed, like, or life speed, like we are doing. And there's been a lot of persons that have said that this could take many generations, and the more people say this can take many generations, and the more persons believe that it's going to take many generations, then the more generations it's going to take. It's all in our perceptions of reality. Those of us that are here advancing at life speed right now, if we thought it was going to take us many generations to go through our ascension process, we wouldn't be advancing like we're advancing. So it's all about perceptions. You gonna take a picture of me? Hey. That's strange. Every once in a while somebody comes up and click. That was really wild. Oh man. The geomancy I did today was really to change my own personal universe and hope that extends out to everybody else's universe. Had a bag of Arkansas crystals, very nice, fine, hand-picked, very heart-oriented crystals. The person that had picked them, it was interesting because I was talking to Lucas and Trish Will, and they were both saying, you might want to do some geomancy around there, because I was talking about the vortexes not activating in this area. Sure, we can activate portals, but we've got aquifers up under this area all along the Gulf, and has some good water coming out of the aquifers, but any aquifer is going to have crystal beds growing in it. It's just how it works. You've got the minerals that are in the aquifer, that are in the water in the aquifer, they start growing on seeds, on crystals, on sand, and they grow and expand. And just like Chihuahua, Mexico, the crystal caves there, they're in all aquifers. They're everywhere. That was just one they happened to pop into and go, oh wow, look at that. And anyway, there's in Florida, at Crystal River, Florida, you could feel them. You could feel the crystal beds up under where the water was coming out from the aquifer. That was some of the highest. That was really interesting to see. Florida, as we would do ceremony, and it would activate and release, old traumas and start healing itself and expanding its light as we were having the incoming CMEs and other cosmic events and the ceremonies that we were doing to amplify the light, and to feel them power up. That was really, really neat, because back in 2010, when I was in the same areas, I could feel them just barely, but by 2013, last year, they were really, really powering up, and many of them were merging. And so you have a vortex here, and the overlay of the power, the gloss, the magnetics of it would overlay into the next field, the next vortex. And just like in Arizona, they were all joining into one. Well, that should be going on here in Mississippi in the Gulf too. The only reason why it might not is because of the Gulf oil spill. That's one reason. Because of one of the things that I noticed when I was spending a lot of time in Hong Kong and working in China and running factories in China in the early 90s, Hong Kong would have a fashion that would come out that would in weeks be in Hong Kong was dressmakers. They were fashion setters. They were designers. And Hong Kong would produce something, and within weeks you would see it coming out in New York or Paris or Rome, and or London, and then within a few months it would be in Florida and California and Colorado. And within about 10 years it'd be in Mississippi. So that could be the other side of that too. It's just Mississippi's as slow as molasses in the wintertime. And so it could be the thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and unwillingness to flow energetically of the persons here. It is truly amazing to see how many people are awake and aware here. So many people are very in, I mean, definitely in fourth dimensional awareness. And many persons have made that shift into their heart and been in fifth dimensional awareness. Somebody started commenting saying you can't be in fifth and sixth unless you go through the Egyptian priestesses or something. Baloney. That's old garbage. Get over it. Fifth dimension is literally from living from the field. That's all it is. It's right here, it's right now. And when we're around other people who are living truly from their heart, who have shifted out of the consciousness and shifted their consciousness from their head to the heart, and they're living from that field, and we gather together in groups, boy, can you feel the power. That's when we really, really create some pretty magnificent portals in ceremony. And in portals, in ceremonies like that, they remain even after we're long gone from those ceremonies. And that's part of how we've powered up this planet. This has been going on for a long, long, long time. You know, the native indigenous persons of the world have been doing ceremonies forever. A lot of those of us that are not necessarily working with them but doing ceremonies, we've been doing this for a long time too. It's not just one group of persons here and there. We've been all over holding the light of this planet during a very, very dark time since the fall in Atlantis. And sometimes we do it with geomancy. Many persons have known about the geomancy that so many of us were called to do back in the 80s, leading up to the harmonic convergence. And Drenvalo has spoken about that many times. I remember hearing about it and feeling the call, but during that time I was really wondering whether I was crazy, whether what I was hearing was real, or was I being possessed. But no, it's real. It's me. It's us. It's coming from the one soul or the over soul, and we're here as volunteers. But you know, we have to go through our process and get to that point of surrender, and knowing that it's real before we can really shift from here to here. I mean, it's just part of the process. A lot of people who are in here and here, but 5D is really the awareness of the field and the conscious channeling of that field. And everything is in the field. Everything is that consciousness. That's the one soul. It's all that is. It's God. and everything's a part of God. And every individual experiencing itself has its own free will, and is living in its own universe of experience, because that's what life is all about. And everything is living. I don't care whether it's the crystals I was putting in the Gulf today. Man, there was about 50 beautiful crystals. And I would each one would tell me what it wanted to do, and I could feel it as I was pulling it out of the bag. And one would say, we need to heal the history of this area. And one would say, heal the history of the planet. And one would say, have abundance for all. And one would say, removing the trauma from my heart. And one would say, healing the Gulf. And one would say, blessing all those that are out there. Another would say, you remember the one that activated you? Bless her. Send love to her. There were several of them said that. Some of them were about the advancing of consciousness and technology. Some of them were about the waking of the bankers. See, it's interesting to walk from Ocean Springs over to Biloxi because you have the Golden Nugget Casino right on the other side, in the same place where the Isle Capri used to be, in Margaritaville, right next to it on the north side. And you know, many of us know that the casinos are just like the banks. It's just a way how to steal money, and it's just taking the prosperity out of everyone except those who are controlling everyone else. And those persons don't want to relinquish control. Some of the crystals wanted to be programmed, or were already programmed. They were telling me what to put into my intent and from the emotions in my heart. And the crystal, and I would hold it for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then I would toss it off the bridge, you know, somewhere between 50 feet and 100 feet up, and watch it go and hit, and see the ripples going out as it would go out. And just about every time I would have, right as soon as I'd do that, there'd be pelicans flying right next to me, or an osprey, or you know, the train whistle blows that instant, or whatever. And the train whistle's for a special friend of mine. She knows who she is. And there was always a sign each and every time. You know, it was raining this morning a couple of times, you know, right as the crystal hit the water, the sun would come out and it would light up. And it was very unique timing. When I was on the other side next to the casinos, and I walked right up to where the end of the water is at Point Cadet, and the casino is right where I used to go fishing, and a lot of that seawall right there is starting to deteriorate. The concrete starting to deteriorate, kind of like the system. And there's a drainage going right there. It's kind of like garbage drainage that's coming from, and it's not garbage, but it's water drainage. But it's like the garbage that's coming from the casinos and casino parking lot, just being put straight out in the Gulf. And right as soon as I dropped that crystal in the water, this garbage truck right next to me cranked up and did the recycling right that second. And then I walked back 2 miles. And so it was really interesting to have all those little synchronicities happen. That's commonplace. That's just, you know, when you're living in that state of being and you know, really doing ceremony, the synchronicities are just amazing. Carolina, who just messaged me saying, just touching base. She was somebody I lived with at Titus Farm in Hopi Land for several years, and she and I and Roy Stevens and Roy Littleson and others did a ceremony, the Flower of Life Sundance from sun up to sundown on the fall equinox in 2011, and we danced the Flower of Life in the Medicine Wheel at Titus Farm. And before then, the vortexes were not activating in Hopi Land, but there was clouds in the sky. It was overcast just like it is here today. And as we danced that Flower of Life pattern, and we danced it from sun up to sundown, I sat down and was looking up in the clouds right about an hour before sundown, and we finished the ceremony, and up in the clouds right above us was the exact pattern, like a cookie cutter had stamped out of the clouds, and it was blue sky just above the medicine wheel, in the same pattern that we had been dancing all day. And those types of things happen over and over and over when we do ceremony like this, and when we're really when we're, totally out of our head, really being in the energies, really allowing the highest levels of self to come through and operate through the physical being, the puppeteer operating through the puppet. That's when all the magic really happens. And today was very, very magical. I still feel some pains and heartaches and trauma because of family issues in my heart, and I know I've got to go. I've got to leave here. I've got to be around others that are holding the same vibration and as I do. It doesn't mean that I don't love persons here any less. I love them with all my heart, and that's why it hurts. It's, you want to pull everybody up with you, and you can't do that. And some people think they're already there, but they got to get out of the thinking and be in the feeling to get there. And then there's a whole process of releasing that you go through as you're expanding that light, bringing more of your higher self in. And you can't control others. You can't manipulate them. You can't not equally energy exchange with another, because that's what karma is. And there's a whole wave of us here that are born into, and this goes back to my last video, a whole wave of us that have been born into families that had mega karmic stuff, whether it was Illuminati stuff, or religious domination, or being in wars and killing people, or murder and rape and pillaging, or slavery, or manipulation of others, or imprisoning, enslaving, not caring for Mother Earth, totally selfish, out of fear, out of the duality. We came here to do that, but now we have to break that cycle. That's where we came from. We've got to cut that cycle, meaning karma stops with me. I've listened all my life about, from persons in my family on the higher levels, my mother and my uncle and aunt and grandparents, about all the trauma that they went through from their parents and grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles, and all the abuses, and the karma stops with me. I cannot do back what has been done to me. I heard it from my mother all her life about how bad her father was after World War II and the Korean War, and his coming back. He was highly decorated. He was on Mount Suribachi when they were raising the flag. He was a Marine drill instructor, 4th Marine Division. And hey, Pop, the big Pop, his boat used to be right here in this harbor. He passed. He passed right after Hurricane Katrina. I saw the apartment buildings that took down his house that were between my family home and his house. At 11:08 in the morning, I had come inside because the water was up to here when Katrina was coming in. We had about 145 mile per hour sustained winds for about 6 hours there. And I'd been outside taking pictures the whole morning, and then finally it got too rough for me being out there, and so I had to come in. And I was taking photographs out of the upstairs windows, the ones that I hadn't boarded up. And I've got these photographs on Facebook, Hurricane Katrina. At 11:08 in the morning, I'm shooting down, and shooting a picture of my truck, and you can see the apartment buildings that would take out my grandparents' house as shadows behind my old 52 Chevy truck. And 11:08 in the morning, they're gone. It was just like boom, and everything came down. And it took down my grandparents' house. It took me a long time to find this house after that, and I found it over next to the Ruskin Oak. I did a video here and was discussing that. It took me several weeks to find his house, and I only recognized it by the roof, by the color of the trim on the roof that I found. You know, that debris was 10 feet deep everywhere. It was just amazing. And anyway, I told him not to come back. He had been up at the Delta at one of his friends' house, Joe Saunders, and said, "There's nothing to come back and see, Pop." And he came back, and that was his saying goodbye and surrender. You know, if he wouldn't have made it, Officer Baji, Iwo Jima, he had the beach, Saipan, Tinian, Iwo Jima. Oh man, he had all these major assaults. He didn't lose any guys until he got to Iwo Jima. 45 men when he hit the beach. Only 5 survived. There's a whole picture of B-29 landing with one of the tail gear not dropping on Iwo Jima. He had been wounded in the feet by a grenade. And the plane flew over. He was in this foxhole right there at the end of the runway. Saw it go down. Turns out later that one of his friends was on that plane taking pictures out of the plane as they were landing. It's a very famous shot. He had several different handwritten commendations from President Roosevelt for taking the caves, the Japanese soldiers there. Throughout my life, the anniversary of those days, the officers that he had taken the lives of, when I was a child, he had swords and machine guns that came from them that he captured. They were on all, you know, he had a whole collection of what he captured. But all my life, on the anniversary of the date that he took the lives of the officers and the men in the caves, as he was going up Suribachi, he would send flowers to the widows. This great love-hate relationship. That's gotta end. It's got to end. The karmic issues has got to stop now. It stops with us. It stops with us. That was... I don't know if you can see it out there. There's a red Nissan right there. It's got his, that was his. It's like a Katrina rescue truck. It was parked at his house just before it disappeared. Anyway, all that karmic stuff has been coming through our family for years. It's been coming through a lot of our families for years. And it stops with us. And those who are consciously aware of what we are doing are cleansing the karma, and that's why we feel so heavily burdened right now. We're transmuting that karma. The buck stops here. I ain't letting it go forward. I'm not going to let my child, my grandchild now, although I hadn't seen them in a couple of years, they divorced me because of all that's going on, which was a good thing at that time, because I was a target. was doing some things that really the government didn't like. They didn't want to be exposed, and that's part of the reason why I had to leave here. Many of you guys know that story. I've documented, put it on Facebook, put all this, but we can't continue these patterns. We've got to change this planet. And we're not talking several generations. Those of us who are awake and aware have to have the buck stop here. We are ascending the multiverse. You are in your universe. I am in my universe. Every consciousness here is in universe. We all have universes within us, and we are all living within this greater universe above us. It is a Mandelbrot recycling all the way down. But in order to change it all, we have to change ourselves. We have to change that which has been handed down to us. Yeshua said, if they slap you on one side, turn over and let them slap you on the other. Well, after a while, sometimes we have to stop the slapping, but we're not going to hit back. That's a tough thing to do for a fighter and a warrior. You've got many peaceful warriors out there who are highly trained, highly advanced, light worker, light warriors. And then you've got those of us that are physically trained fighters that are warriors also. And it's those of us that carry a lot of issues we've got to clean up. It's real easy to react to a situation. You train to be in total reaction. You know, somebody's coming in, you take and block it. You feel the energy coming in, you stop it. You know, you take them down because you can feel their energy and what is getting ready to happen before it happens, and you drop them. And you don't think about it. It's a feeling. That's what got me into my light and my spiritual understanding. My ability to see without seeing was I trained that way. My martial arts was training. We'd go through the gauntlets blindfolded and have the other person's training with us, throwing kicks and punches, and we'd learn to feel the energy and see it without these eyes and block it. We could feel it. And that was the greatest training to get me where I am now that could ever be. And but that training in a defensive, aggressive, physical kill nature, those magnetics that comes with that thought capacity, it triggers things in the emotional capacity which have to be neutralized, which becomes karmic. Karma is not just because somebody does this and that to you. Karma is what we are putting out. The karma is magnetic. When we were playing on the Metatronic levels of creation, we were playing with magnetics. You slow that down, and it's consciousness. It's all consciousness, even at magnetic levels, but it becomes thought, and thought is slowed into light. Thought is slowed into light. Light is slowed into sound, and then it crosses over into this material world. Magnetics is the highest end of it. Magnetics is how this all works. How polarity, duality, the experience, how atoms, the solar system, the universe, how these bodies, cells, that's how it all works. Magnetics is the highest end of it. So it's the magnetics inside that we really have to be observant of. Magnetics are like a copper coil. A copper coil that's in a generator or an electromagnet that you see at a junkyard or steel scrap yard that picks up a car and moves it. That's all because of copper coils around an iron core. And they energize the copper coils with electricity. Electrical thoughts, magnetic emotions. And that's where the power is. And you have to get out of here so you're not creating the electrical thoughts from your ego, and live within the field of feeling magnetics within the heart. And when you wish to create, then you trigger that thought, which induces the magnetic field around your emotions, and that becomes the intent of your creation. That's how all this works. And right now, we're changing the experience of duality, and we're changing that in a multiversal way. in one of my videos, I guess it was the first video that I did when I came back to Ocean Springs, it was about my stepping into a multiversal initiation. And that's a fact. I'm playing on that level now. It's a magnetic level. And yes, each and every one of us are walking around in our own universe. But not all of those universes are vibrating at the same level. And not all of those universes have got their magnetics of the polarities cleaned up. And that's what dimensional levels of awareness is all about. It's not just happening to us like in 3D, like you've got a natural magnet out there and it's just attracting you. Boom, shit hits the fan. You know, in 4D, you realize that you're creating it, and we join together with our powers, just like going to a church and we're going to pray to heal somebody. And it works. And that's what we did in shamanic ceremonies for years, is we gathered. That's what harmonic convergence was all about. That's what opening the 1111 doorway was all about. That's what so many of the other ceremonies that we've gathered and joined together in was all about. But that was before we activated our heart chakras. Now we're truly empowered. Now we've really got to clean up our magnetics. Because what I found is these old issues were going on with my family these past 2 months since I've been back. When I'm not being equally energetically exchanged for what I do or supported in those dreams after I do it for another to keep their life from collapsing, then that takes me back to all the past stuff that I've asked for the same thing all my life and never got. So that electrical thought triggers an emotion that goes in here, and with the level of light that I hold, then that manifests a major disease very quickly in this physical being. That's why I can't stay here. If I stay here, the individuals are not going to change. They're going to keep on doing the same thing. They don't see that it's anything wrong, and it's not wrong. It's just the level of light that I hold with their level of vibration and their need to control and dominate and take from, because they have so little themselves that they've got to take it from everybody else. And that's this whole money game. That's the money game worldwide. Abundance is having just what you need, exactly what you need as you need it. Not having to have all the stuff that you're trying to figure out. You're in here trying to figure out how to repair. Down here on the Gulf Coast, you paint a house, in 5 years you're going to be painting it again. You paint something, every single steel bolt that's in anything around here rusts out. Everything rusts. Everything is in a constant state, unless you build it right, in a constant state of needing to be repaired. So having all the stuff puts you out of there in that world, and this constant need to be focused on the stuff and how you take care of it. And then that takes money, and then that takes somebody to come do it if you can't do it yourself. So you've got to make all this money, control and dominate others, figure out how you're going to get all your money, and then try to find somebody that's cheap enough that you can afford, that does a good enough job that you can lock into place to do the work that you need, or enslave somebody. That's why they used to have slavery system. That's why the church and everybody's always enslaved people. It's the same thing. But as those of us who are really, really advanced in our light are going through this process, and we're in these karmic families trying to stop this karma, it's not trying, we are stopping this karma. Some of us are staying in the middle of it and learning how to address those issues. Some of us, like me, I have so many dreams and desires of inventions that I want to change this planet with, that within this family, I have no support. It just sucks the life and the light out of me. And that hurts to say it. Boy, that hits deep. But I don't love them any less. But I can't stay in the game. I can't stay playing their game. There's just no concern for me. It's only what I can do for them. And it's not a bad thing. It's an experience, an experience, an experience. So that goes back to, God, this is just going round and round and round today. That goes back to, it's not time to gather persons for large healing ceremonies here on the coast in the universe I'm coming from at this point. I can do the geomancy here and leave this hurt and trauma behind, reduce it. Oh my God, that mullet was just even bigger than the last one. But I'm not going to go fishing and take a life if I'm not going to eat it. So that's just me. And I do eat fish and I do eat meat, but I don't kill. Even in our own family home, I see centipedes and millipedes walking on the floor around inside the house, and I got to pick them up and take them outside. I ain't squishing them. Got rid of all my guns. I ain't killing nothing no more. Not unless it's trying to kill me. And it's got to really be trying to kill me before I kill it. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. This is a really tough situation we're in here right now. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Oh, I love everybody so much, and that's why it hurts. That's why it hurts. I want to change this planet. I want to change it yesterday. Last year, 20 years, I would have changed it 52 years ago when I got here. And I look back and I see how much it has changed. Oh my God. Born during the Cuban Missile Crisis and living at Ole Miss when the first blacks were brought in by the National Guard to University of Mississippi. JFK getting killed, and the civil rights workers. That was all in county here in Mississippi that my family inhabits. The same side of the family that I was just transmuting a lot of karmic stuff for this past week. They had no idea. I don't think anybody in my family had any idea of what was coming through my field in the visions that I was seeing. Family history, hundreds of years of slavery, and hurt and trauma and pains. And those pains keep on getting replayed. And it's got to stop here. The magnetics have to be changed from inside me. So future generations don't have to deal with this. We can't have 1,000 years of peace unless we consciously stop what we're doing. A friend was quoting Rumi to me the other day, and I said, yeah, another friend of mine used to lay in bed with me and read Rumi to me, and I loved it so much, but then something happened. And she said, well, it's one thing to quote Rumi, it's a whole another thing to live it. I'm all about living the life that I teach, that I preach, walking my talk. It's that's what it's all about. We can't talk about what Gandhi said and be change, be the change you want to see. Well, you really got to go out and be the change you want to see. You can't just quote them. You got to go live it. Be an example. and yeah, we can still feel rage even though we get into the higher levels of the enlightenment process while I'm still in physical form. Otherwise, Jesus wouldn't have been turning over the tables in the temple of the money changers. He got pretty outraged. Yeshua, Jesus, Hail Zeus, Jesus. Hey, that's the Roman Catholic stuff. Yeshua got pretty upset with several different things, even in his enlightened, Christed state. And that does happen. It certainly does happen. Now, for me, what's getting ready to happen is putting myself with others that hold the same vibrational wavelength, the same intents for changing the planet, for what we wish to bring forth to the planet, and aligning with those who have that intent, where we support each other and build on the dreams and show the world what can be done. And quit waiting on those who we have always been promised who will help sometime in the future. Yes, we'll help you when you do this for us, and we get to that point and they don't do it. Yes, we'll help you when you do this for us, and we get to that point they don't do it. Well, after a while, it's got to stop spinning our wheels. Let them spin their wheels. If they're sinking, let them sink. That's the only way they're going to find out. But damn it, you know, I'm just the guy I'm like, I can fix that problem. That's easy. It's just I read the field and comes out and tells me all my skills that I need to know, and I go do it. And I make very difficult things look simple. That's a part of the enlightenment process. It's not because of my knowledge base since I'm here. It's the skills that, you know, we've been here forever and ever and ever. We've had lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. We've had lifetimes in higher technology environments than we have here on Earth right now. We had lifetimes in Atlantis of that. We had lifetimes in Lemuria of higher spiritual times. Atlantis was very material, and Lemuria was very etheric. Was more dealing with the magnetics rather than the physical realities. Yes, it was a physical reality, but it was a higher vibrating reality. And we've had many lifetimes way before we even came to Earth and this solar system. That's what the field is all about, is the Akashic record of those lifetimes and those skills and abilities. And sometimes you might not remember the ego of who you were. I was Benjamin Franklin, and I was married so-and-so, and I went to Paris and was playing with all the beautiful women there. Well, that's ego shit, you know. Now we need those skills and abilities from the field, from the Akashic records, from all of that to bring to the forefront and change the planet in this material way now. Yes, we're going to higher levels of less and less density, where we are dematerializing, rematerializing instantaneously the energies that we are playing with here. But we are going to that level, but we're not there yet, and it's going to take material things to transition here. And at the same time, we have to clean up all the games of duality from our heart, all the magnetics, all that's around here. That's what we came here to do. That's what the volunteers are here to do. And we got to change the perceptions of the whole thing. And now it's the time for the coming together of all of those of us who have similar dreams and visions. And we're gathering in groups all over the world. You know, we're finally through acupressuring, acupuncturing the whole planet. We're finally done with that. Yes, we're still doing a little bit here and there, but now it's time that we come together and we are living with others in the same vibration, who aren't going to be doing these karmic issues and control in the same old patterns to us. The worlds are splitting apart in that way. That's fact, Jack. And we've got to cut these cords. You know, we've got to clean up the magnetics and love these persons with the greatest of love we can give them. And let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Magnetics. We can't always get rid of the thoughts, but we can get rid of that which generates the old emotional cycle, the electromagnetic field, the traumatic replays, and just love them. That we can do. We got to be so very careful as we expand our light field, because, and I'm really a witness to that by coming back home, because a little bit of the same old crap showing that there's just not going to be consideration for those dreams and visions, support for those dreams and visions that I hold, really brings up a lot of, well, why did I just save you? Why did I just save your life? It's funny, if you've ever been trained as a lifeguard, sometimes when you bring somebody in, you're swimming into shore, and you've got your arm around them, pulling them into shore, and they're fighting and they're fighting and they're trying to squish you down and drown you. Sometimes you go, knock them out. And you can very easily get them into shore without drowning yourself. Sometimes we have to let people just go ahead and die. That sucks. It really sucks. It sucks from this humanitarian aspect of Christed self and being in the heart. We want to save everybody, but we can't save anybody. We can only save ourselves unless somebody is willing to be saved. And then it's got to be repaid. It's not necessarily a life for life, but there's got to be an energy exchange there. There's got to be, okay, well, you did this for me. What can I do for you in return that you want? How can I support you? And if it's not there, it's time to move on. And a lot of us seem to be going through exactly that right now. And the interesting thing I found was when I came to that point of saying, okay, this isn't going to change. Doors open. Doors open everywhere. Here, come to Arizona. Come to Florida. Come here. Come there. And there's like-minded people wanting to do the same technology building and giving to the world. And we're not concerned about money. It's not, we're open sourcing everything. And that, it's a different way of being. It's walking the talk. It's really being here to change the world and not over selfish control and domination and living in a world of lack. This is from living in a world of abundance. We can make all kinds of things with very, very little. And that's where we're going. Now, I can really see my wind turbine designs now being printed out of recycled plastic bottles. I can, when everybody puts their recycle out at night, before the recycle trucks gets there the next morning, I'm gonna be raiding the recycle bins and chopping it up and running it through extruder and making more filament and making wind turbines, change the planet. And these things are all right here. They're available. My CAD designs are amazing. I've been into CAD for about 2 weeks now, and it's just like, oh, I'm seeing so much I can do. It's just like, wow, the universe is opening up as I'm letting the field come through, and I'm seeing the designs and understanding and bringing the designs that I had years and years ago and finally getting to put them into CAD, computer-aided design for 3D printing. And now it's time for those of us to come together in groups. I mean, living in the same place, doing our aquaponics and organic gardening and fishing and building houses where they're supposed to be built and living, in relation to the earth and not in wasting and not in abusing the planet. And it's that time. It's that time. And it's happening. We've got to process these old magnetics that is coming through the family generations. And that's what I'm doing before I go. I cannot take these hurts and pains with me where I'm going. I've got to get rid of them here before I go. And right now I'm continuing processing for my family and for this area, this country. Archangel Michael waving his blue sword. 5919. Yep, down to the last minute of this video, and about all I have to say for now. Just as a flow every time. Anyway, love y'all. Bye for now.